We met in college, back when everything felt possible and uncomplicated. Olivia was studying art history, and I was grinding through my engineering degree at Riverside University. She had this way of making ordinary moments feel like adventures, turning a coffee run into an impromptu road trip, or staying up until 3 in the morning debating whether happiness was a choice or a consequence. Those early years were good. Really good. We got married 2 years after graduation in a small ceremony in Boulder. Nothing fancy, just family, close friends, and promises we both believed in. I got a job at Henderson Engineering Solutions, working my way up from junior analyst to project manager. Olivia bounced between gallery positions, never quite finding the right fit, but always passionate about the work. For the first 5 years, we were solid. We had routines. Friday nights at Giuseppe's, a little Italian place near our apartment. Sunday mornings sleeping in, then brunch at whatever new spot Olivia had found on Instagram. We argued sometimes about money, about whose turn it was to do the dishes, about whether we should adopt a dog, but nothing that felt dangerous. Then something shifted. It started small. She began spending more time with her friends, Vanessa, Claire, and Emily. Girls' nights became girls' weekends. Weekend trips turned into week-long vacations I wasn't invited to. At first, I didn't mind. I wanted her to have her own life, her own space. But slowly, I felt her pulling away. Around year 6, I noticed the texts. Late at night, her phone glowing in the dark. She'd angle it away from me, smile at something I couldn't see, then set it down quickly when she realized I was awake. I didn't say anything. Then came the business trip to Seattle. She was supposed to go with colleagues from the gallery. 3 days, she said. Simple conference, networking, nothing exciting. She came back different. Distant. Guilty. She stopped looking me in the eye when we talked. Started picking fights over nothing, leaving a towel on the floor, forgetting to text her back within 10 minutes, breathing too loudly while she watched TV. I found out by accident. A mutual friend, someone from college we hadn't seen in years, sent me a message. He'd been in Seattle that same weekend. Saw Olivia at a hotel bar with a man who definitely wasn't a colleague. They weren't just talking. They were close. Intimate. The kind of body language that doesn't lie. I sat with that information for 3 days before I did anything. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately. Demand answers. Burn everything down. But another part of me, the part that remembered who we used to be, wanted to believe there was an explanation. That maybe it was a mistake. That maybe we could survive it. So I made a choice. I forgave her without ever telling her I knew. I never brought it up. Never threw it in her face during an argument. Never used it as leverage. I just let it go. Buried it somewhere deep and told myself that if she wanted to stay, if she chose me, then maybe we could rebuild. But forgiveness doesn't erase the weight of a secret. It just redistributes it. I started noticing everything after that. How she flinched when I touched her phone. How she'd mention places she'd never actually told me she went. How she'd pause, just for a second, before answering simple questions about her day. She never confessed. Never apologized. Maybe she didn't think I knew. Maybe she convinced herself it didn't matter. Or maybe, and this is what I came to believe, she thought I was too passive to ever do anything about it. For 2 years, I carried that knowledge like a stone in my chest. And then came her birthday. I should have realized something was wrong the moment Olivia suggested celebrating her birthday at one of the most expensive restaurants in Denver. She'd always mocked places like that, overpriced food, fake elegance, people pretending to be important. Yet that night, she was glowing with excitement, dressed like she was attending an awards ceremony instead of dinner with her husband. When we arrived at Le Chateau Noir, I noticed the table was set for more people than just us. Her friends were already there, her inner circle. Vanessa with her flawless makeup and constant need for attention, Claire flashing a handbag worth more than my car payment, and Emily, who thrived on chaos like it was oxygen. They greeted me with smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. The restaurant itself was a monument to excess. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. White tablecloths stretched perfectly across tables spaced just far enough apart to give the illusion of privacy, while ensuring everyone could still see and be seen. Soft piano music played in the background, nearly drowned out by the murmur of expensive conversations and the clink of wine glasses. We ordered appetizers, escargot foie gras, things I couldn't pronounce and didn't particularly want. Olivia kept glancing at her friends, exchanging looks I couldn't quite read. Vanessa laughed too loudly at something Claire whispered. Emily kept checking her phone, smirking. Halfway through the meal, after the wine had been poured and phones discreetly checked for notifications, Olivia suddenly set her glass down and straightened her posture. The conversation around the table faded. That alone should have alarmed me. This group was never quiet unless something dramatic was coming. "There's something I need to say," she announced, loud enough for nearby tables to listen in. "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I don't think this marriage is right for me anymore." I laughed at first. Not because it was funny, but because it sounded absurd. We were at her birthday dinner, surrounded by her friends, in a crowded restaurant. This couldn't be real, until she looked me dead in the eyes and said calmly, "I want a divorce." She spoke like she was returning shoes that didn't fit. The weight of those words hung in the air. I could feel eyes on us, other diners pretending not to listen but absolutely listening. The waiter hovered awkwardly near the kitchen door, unsure whether to approach. Vanessa leaned forward, practically vibrating with anticipation. Claire covered her mouth, but her eyes were lit up like she was watching her favorite drama unfold. Emily recorded nothing, but I could tell she wanted to. I expected my chest to tighten, my voice to crack, something cinematic. Instead, I felt still. And in that stillness, something clicked. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned, rehearsed. The fancy restaurant, the audience of friends, the theatrical timing, it was all designed for maximum impact. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to beg, to cry, to make a scene. She wanted a performance. "All right," I said. The silence that followed was deafening. Her eyebrows knitted together. Confusion flickered across her face, quickly replaced by frustration. "That's it? You're not even going to fight for us?" I reached into my pocket, placed enough cash on the table to cover my dinner and a generous tip, and stood up. The chair scraped against the polished floor, louder than I intended. "I'm not going to argue about my marriage in front of an audience," I said quietly. Her friends stared at me as if I'd just ruined their favorite show. Vanessa's mouth fell open. Claire looked almost offended. Emily finally stopped smiling. I left without another word. The cool night air hit me as I stepped outside. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, hands in my pockets, watching cars pass. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Then again. And again. I didn't look at it. That night, my phone exploded, texts, voicemails, missed calls. I ignored all of it. When someone tells you who they are, you listen. Olivia had spoken clearly. I drove home in silence. No music. No radio. Just the hum of the engine and the occasional stoplight. When I got back to our apartment, the one we'd shared for 8 years, it felt different. Smaller. Like I was seeing it for the first time. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and finally looked at my phone. 23 messages. 14 from Olivia. The rest from her friends. Olivia's messages started angry, then shifted to confused, then desperate. "Where did you go? We need to talk about this. You can't just walk away. This isn't funny. Call me back right now. You're being childish. I can't believe you embarrassed me like that." I read them all without responding. Then I read the messages from her friends. Vanessa, wow. Real mature. Claire, you should be ashamed of yourself. Emily, she deserves better than this. I deleted them all. Blocked their numbers. Then I opened my laptop and searched for divorce attorneys in Denver. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, drinking coffee and watching the sun rise through the window. By 6 in the morning, I had a list of 3 lawyers. By 9, I'd called all of them. By noon, I had a consultation scheduled for the next day with a firm called Whitman and Associates. The next morning, Olivia showed up at my office at Henderson Engineering. She looked wrecked. Yesterday's mascara smudged under her eyes, hair pulled back like she'd been pacing all night. My assistant tried to stop her, but Olivia stormed past the front desk and burst into my office unannounced. "You were supposed to care," she snapped, slamming the door behind her. "You were supposed to fight." I looked up from my computer, calm. "For what?" "For us. For our marriage. You announced you wanted a divorce in the middle of a crowded restaurant," I said evenly. "What exactly did you expect me to do?" "I expected you to fight for me." Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her face now. "I expected you to prove that you still love me." That's when the truth finally surfaced. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a test. Her friends had convinced her that humiliating me in public would prove whether I loved her enough. If I begged, if I made a scene, if I fell apart, then I really cared. If I walked away, I never loved her at all. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You and your friends decided to publicly humiliate me, as a test?" She hesitated. It wasn't supposed to be like that. Then what was it supposed to be? She wiped her face with the back of her hand. I needed to know if you still loved me. If you'd fight for us. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I simply told her the truth. You don't test someone you respect. She stared at me, stunned. If you had doubts about us, you should have talked to me, I continued. Like an adult. Like a partner. But instead, you turned our marriage into a game. You brought an audience. You humiliated me for entertainment. It wasn't like that. Yes, it was. I stood up, walked around my desk, and looked her in the eye. And you know what the worst part is? You were so busy testing me that you never stopped to think about what you were revealing about yourself. Her face went pale. I've already contacted a lawyer, I said quietly. You'll be hearing from them soon. She left furious. I felt relieved. 2 months later, I ran into Vanessa, one of Olivia's friends, crying alone in a cafe on the east side of Denver. I almost didn't recognize her without the makeup and designer clothes. She looked hollow. Hey, I said carefully, standing a few feet away. You all right? She looked up, surprised to see me. For a moment, I thought she might tell me to leave. Instead, she just started crying harder. Gregory left me, she said, her voice breaking. Gregory, her husband of 6 years. A decent guy, as far as I knew. Worked in finance, kept to himself. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. He found out about the birthday thing. She wiped her eyes with a napkin, mascara streaking across her fingers. He said I was manipulative, that he couldn't trust me anymore. He said orchestrating something like that, helping Olivia humiliate you, it showed him who I really was. I sat down across from her. Not because I wanted to comfort her, but because I wanted to understand. Why did you do it? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know. It seemed fun at the time. Olivia was so convinced you didn't care about her anymore. We thought, I don't know what we thought, that it would be dramatic, that it would prove something. It did, I said quietly. Just not what you expected. She looked at me broken. I lost everything. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. The cafe hummed with the sound of espresso machines and quiet conversations, people living their normal lives while hers fell apart. I stood up, left some cash on the table for her coffee, and walked out. Soon after, Claire's boyfriend confronted me in a parking garage downtown. His name was Nathan. Tall guy, worked as a contractor. I'd met him a few times at parties, quiet, observant, the kind of person who listened more than he spoke. Hey, he called out as I was unlocking my car. Can I talk to you for a second? I tensed, not sure what to expect. I heard what happened with you and Olivia, he said, hands in his pockets. And I just wanted to say, I get it now. Get what? Why you left. He looked uncomfortable, like he was confessing something he didn't want to admit. Claire told me about it eventually. Bragged about it, actually. Thought it was hilarious. But then I started thinking about all the other stuff she'd done. The tests. The games. He told me about a time Claire faked a pregnancy scare to see how he'd react. Another time she pretended to flirt with his best friend to make him jealous. Small manipulations disguised as jokes or just seeing how much you care. There was this one time, Nathan continued, his voice getting quieter. She told me her ex was in town and wanted to meet up. Said she was going to do it to see if I'd get jealous. Like my feelings were some kind of entertainment for her. When I told her that was messed up, she called me controlling. I realized I couldn't be with someone like that, Nathan said. Someone who treats relationships like psychological experiments. Good for you, I said, and I meant it. Yeah, he nodded slowly. Good for me. He paused, then looked at me directly. Listen, I know we don't know each other well, but if you ever want to grab a beer or something, I could use someone to talk to who understands. I gave him my number. 2 weeks later, Gregory reached out. He'd gotten my contact information from Nathan. The three of us met at Murphy's Tavern, a low-key sports bar near downtown where nobody cared who you were or what you were going through. Gregory was different from what I remembered, sharper, more awake. I spent 6 years walking on eggshells, he said, nursing his beer. Always wondering what mood she'd be in, what test she'd come up with next. I thought that was just what relationships were. Same, Nathan said. I thought love was supposed to be hard, that if it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't real. We talked for hours that night, about the red flags we'd ignored, the excuses we'd made, the ways we'd convinced ourselves that their behavior was normal, or our fault, or something we could fix if we just tried harder. The worst part, Gregory said, is that I knew. Deep down, I knew something was wrong, but I was too scared to admit it. Ryan joined us the following week. Emily's ex-partner, the guy from the tech startup. He'd heard about our group through Nathan and asked if he could come. He showed up wearing a hoodie and looking exhausted, like he hadn't slept properly in weeks. "She's still texting me," Ryan said, showing us his phone. Dozens of messages from Emily, long paragraphs, accusations, apologies, threats to tell everyone the truth about what really happened. "Block her," I said simply. I did. She created new numbers, new email addresses, even showed up at my office once. "Did you file a report?" Gregory asked. "Yeah. Police said unless she threatens violence, there's not much they can do. But my HR department knows. They've got security watching for her." We all sat in silence for a moment, processing that. "It's like they can't accept that we left," Nathan said. "Like they expected us to just stay forever, no matter what they did." "Because we always did before," I said. "We set the precedent." That became our thing. Every Thursday night at Murphy's Tavern. The four of us, grabbing dinner and beers, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes we discussed our past relationships, the lessons learned, the patterns we'd missed. Other times we just watched the game, complained about work, shared stupid memes on our phones. It wasn't therapy. It was better. It was four guys who understood each other without having to explain, who'd been through the same kind of manipulation and came out the other side, who could laugh about the absurdity of it all without minimizing the pain it had caused. Gregory started bringing articles he'd found about emotional manipulation and narcissistic behavior. Nathan shared podcasts about setting boundaries. Ryan introduced us to his therapist's recommendations for healing after toxic relationships. I contributed what I'd learned about recognizing red flags early. We became friends. Real friends. Not the surface-level kind who only showed up for the good times, but the kind who checked in when someone went quiet for a few days, who noticed when one of us was struggling and didn't let them pretend everything was fine. One night, about 4 months in, Nathan said something that stuck with me. "You know what's crazy? I spent 3 years with Claire and never felt like I could really talk to her. Not about real stuff. But I've known you guys for a few months, and I feel more understood than I ever did with her." We all nodded. We got it. Dominoes. One by one, the men closest to those women began asking the same question I had. Who am I really with? Emily's long-term partner Ryan ended things after overhearing her laughing about the birthday ambush with friends. He told her he couldn't respect someone who found cruelty entertaining. What they thought was a clever test exposed something far uglier: their lack of empathy, accountability, and basic respect. They didn't destroy my marriage that night. They didn't destroy any of our relationships. They revealed themselves. And once the truth is out, there's no pretending it didn't happen. But here's what they didn't expect. They thought breaking us would leave us broken. Instead, it left us free. Free to build something better. Free to form genuine connections based on respect and honesty, rather than drama and manipulation. The four of us, me, Gregory, Nathan, and Ryan, we became brothers in a way. Not by blood, but by shared experience and mutual understanding. We'd all walked away from chaos and found clarity. And in that clarity, we found each other. The next morning felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just empty, like the sound after something heavy crashes and settles. I woke up before my alarm, stared at the ceiling for a few minutes, and realized there was nothing left to brace myself for. No arguments waiting. No messages to dread. No emotional landmines disguised as conversations. Just a clean slate. I finished the paperwork that afternoon at Whitman and Associates. Signed where I needed to sign. Initialed where I was told to initial. The lawyer, a sharp woman in her 50s named Ms. Whitman, congratulated me in that neutral, professional way people do when something is both an ending and a relief. "You're free," she said simply, shaking my hand. I thanked her and walked out of the building feeling lighter than I had in years. That evening, I went home and cooked dinner for one. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. No background noise from someone scrolling their phone. No tension hanging in the air. No wondering if I'd said something wrong, done something wrong, breathed wrong. Just music playing softly, some old jazz record I'd forgotten I owned, and the simple satisfaction of doing something ordinary without walking on eggshells. I made pasta. Nothing fancy. Just garlic, olive oil, red pepper flakes, and Parmesan. I set the table for myself. Poured a glass of wine. Sat down and ate slowly, savoring every bite. For the first time in years, I felt present. A week later, I ran into Nathan again. He looked better, rested, clearer. The weight that had been pressing on his shoulders seemed lighter. I officially ended things with Claire, he told me over coffee. Started seeing a therapist too, trying to figure out why I stayed as long as I did. That's good, I said. Really good. Yeah. He stirred his coffee absently. I'm learning what healthy boundaries actually look like. Turns out I didn't really know before. Gregory reached out not long after that. Sent me a message on LinkedIn, of all places. Asked if I wanted to grab a beer. We met at a dive bar in Capitol Hill, the kind of place with sticky floors and cheap drafts. I owe you an apology, he said after his first sip. For what? I never said anything. At the parties, the dinners, I knew Vanessa and her friends were like that. I just didn't think it was my place to say something. It's not your fault, I said. Maybe not, but I should have warned you. He shook his head. I should have warned myself. We talked for 2 hours. About the signs we'd ignored. The red flags we'd explained away. The compromises we'd made without realizing we were compromising ourselves. By the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers. Made plans to meet up again. It felt good to connect with someone who understood. Ryan texted a few weeks later. He'd moved into a small apartment near Washington Park. Said the quiet helped him think clearly again. Said he'd blocked Emily everywhere and hadn't looked back. Apparently, Emily had tried reaching out to everyone, long messages, dramatic apologies, vague threats about exposing the truth. When that didn't work, she switched tactics. Played the victim online. Posted cryptic quotes about betrayal and loyalty on Instagram and Facebook. Most people stopped responding. The attention dried up. And without an audience, she had nothing left. As for Olivia, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she did move away. Portland, someone said. A different city. A fresh start. Part of me hoped she'd find peace there, genuinely. Not because I owed her forgiveness, but because bitterness is a heavy thing to carry, and I didn't want to be part of her punishment anymore. I also heard she'd tried to reach out to me. Sent letters to my old address. Called my office a few times, though my assistant deflected. She never got through. I didn't block her out of anger. I blocked her because I needed space to heal. And healing requires distance from the people who broke you in the first place. A month later, my sister Rachel invited me over for dinner at her place in Littleton. You're different, she said halfway through the meal, setting down her fork and studying me carefully. Good different, or you should be worried different? I asked. She smiled. Good different. Quieter. More sure of yourself. She was right. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. Not to anyone. Rachel had always been perceptive. Growing up, she was the one who could tell when I was upset even when I denied it. The one who called me out when I was making excuses for people who didn't deserve them. You seem lighter, she continued. Like you're not carrying something heavy anymore. I'm not, I admitted. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. For walking away. That meant more than I expected. We spent the rest of the evening talking about everything except Olivia. My job. Her kids. The new hiking trail she'd found in the foothills. Normal things. Easy things. When I left that night, driving back to my apartment through the quiet streets of Denver, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. For years, I'd stayed in a broken marriage because I feared what would happen if I left. I feared the emptiness, the judgment, the failure. But the emptiness I'd been avoiding was nothing compared to the hollow ache of staying with someone who didn't respect me. That was the real lesson in all of this. Love doesn't demand tests. Commitment doesn't require humiliation. And loyalty doesn't come from pressure, it comes from choice. Olivia and her friends believed that love had to be dramatic to be real. That it had to be loud, painful, and performative. They thought walking away meant weakness. They were wrong. Walking away was the first honest decision any of us made. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's chaos. Sometimes the strongest response isn't a fight, it's clarity. And sometimes, when someone tries to test your love, the correct answer is to choose yourself. I poured a drink that night, stood by the window of my apartment, and raised the glass, not to loss, not to anger, but to freedom. The game was over. And for the first time in a long time, I was finally playing for myself. Thank you for watching the video to the end. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. A playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to is now displayed on the screen. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.